The LA Dodgers are World Series champions for the second time in 5 seasons. Their first World Series title in a full season since 1988, and their 8th title in franchise history. The celebration in the Bronx. Mookie Betts running in. You remember last year what happened to the Dodgers? Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, when it combined 1 for 21 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, that got swept in the first round. They spent $1 billion on a couple of players in the offseason and got more players at the deadline and brought in Teoscar Hernandez on a 1-year deal. They made all kind of moves to make the team that they had. As you take a look at what they've done under Dave Roberts, we mentioned winning in 2020 during the COVID season. A lot of people didn't give a lot of credit to that, thought it was a Mickey Mouse title. Well, this validates that as they beat the best team in the American League, the Yankees, in 2024 for their 8th World Series in franchise history. So we head into the offseason already. We were hoping to get a Game 6, and we don't. Bobby, baseball, we're not going to have baseball till April. I mean, that's a little crushing for us as we are baseball fans and we are baseball lifers. All right, so the Dodgers, to put into perspective, David, because we talked about this, what happened last season, 1 for 21, a combined Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman wins World Series MVP. This is a team that's set up to become a dynasty.
Well, they certainly have the payroll to do it and the financial capacity. Remember, the Dodgers are not at all have a problem with the regional sports networks that the other teams have an issue with. Their deal is guaranteed for another decade plus. So what does it mean? It means Andrew Friedman, with his small payroll mentality from Tampa, gets to use his financial muscle to make moves not just on the margin that we don't talk about, like bringing in Michael Kopech, like getting Teoscar on a 1-year deal, but then he gets to give Ohtani 10 years, $700. He gets to get Yamamoto. And Bobby will tell you about another Japanese pitcher that may be a Dodger in the not-too-distant future. What does it mean is that they are building a dynasty. And when you look at what they did this year, when 8 starting pitchers plus Ohtani, who may come back next year, though second Tommy John is not easy, they have a chance to be better and have way more depth next year with the position player brilliance still in existence. The biggest offseason question will be, can Ohtani be a top-of-the-rotation pitcher and an MVP top-of-the-lineup hitter? That is the biggest wait to see for the Dodgers.
And a lot of free agents to sign. This is going to be a dynasty. With all those guys coming back, and to add a piece here and there, I think they can improve up the middle. I think third base is a question mark. I think Teoscar could be a hometown discount, but I think his value has really risen. And here you have some of these free agents right here in front of you, David. You assembled this list. I think a couple of them are really guys you have to keep, and I think Blake Trinan is one of them for sure.
Walker Buehler,
for sure.
What he did,
He's a Dodger for life.
Does that, what he just did in this game, this closeout game, does that get him the contract that he was going to get had he not had to get a second Tommy John? He's not going to get that huge contract. He's going to get a nice one.
Yeah, if you look at what he did this postseason, where he gave you 3 starts, 5+ innings, he can come back on 2 days rest, but it's the last game of the season. If I'm negotiating with him, it's clear. You're not getting 5 years. I'm looking at maybe 3 years, maybe 25 a year, 75 for 3. That's about all I want to give him. And it's possible that he will price himself out of the smaller payroll teams, the middle market teams, and that would lead for him to re-sign with the Dodgers. So maybe this postseason actually did something to keep him in L.A. versus helping him leave L.A.
Well, and the Dodgers, they are apparently in the running for Juan Soto. So that's the biggest free agent here that we're looking at, right? I mean, that's who we're looking at here is Juan Soto. And let's bring in Will Middlebrooks, because, Will, Juan Soto's going to get paid. Is he going to want to stay in the Bronx, or does he want to go, you know, if you can't beat him, join him?
I think he's going to go wherever they offer him the most money. Let's be honest. I mean, and who knows how much that's going to be. You're hearing anything from 500 to 700. I don't think it's going to be 700. I don't think you're paying that guy as much as Ohtani. He doesn't pitch. He's not a top end of the rotation type arm, obviously. So, look, I think this is going to come down to how much money are the Mets going to dish out. You keep hearing rumblings of Toronto being in the mix. some long shots like Red Sox and Cubs, which I don't think there's any chance of them going to those teams. I think it's going to come down to the New York teams. And me being a Red Sox guy, it kills me to say this, but he just looks right in pinstripes. He does. He looks like a Yankee. He fits that stadium well. His mentality fits that team. And it really has turned them into a more balanced offense of what he brings to the table.
He grounded out in the bottom of the 8th inning. We wondered if that was his last at bat in pinstripes. Do you think that's going to be his last at bat in pinstripes?
One of the things the Dodgers do is they deal with deferrals, heavy deferrals. Guess what Juan Soto will not do? Excuse me. He was offered by the Washington Nationals about $440 million several years ago, but it was full of deferrals. Ohtani signed with the Dodgers, full of deferrals. Scott Boras and Juan Soto, they're not going for that. So you're going to have to come up with current day dollars, and you're going to have to break the record of Ohtani, which is not 700. Because of the way you do the math and the deferrals, it's about 440. So really what you're trying to do is get Soto over 440, and I take the over. I think Soto breaks the record this offseason.
Big-time demand, no doubt about that. You have to throw San Francisco in there that's going to have a potload of money to spend. He's a good player. I think that the bidding is going to bid him out of this world. I think he's going to get more than the present-day value of Shohei, and maybe he's worth it. He's the best hitter in baseball, in my opinion, and not the best outfielder, though, but he is the best hitter.
So,
hey,
David,
we're looking at a 14-year deal, too. I just want to chime in. Like, he just turned 26.
Yeah.
It feels like he's been around for 15 years. He just turned 26 a few days ago. We're looking at a 14-year deal. They're going to pay him till he's 40.
You think a team's going to give him 14 years?
I think if they want to sign him, they're going to overextend. This is what we see with top-end generational talent. Teams are going to overextend themselves. To get to the number he wants to get to, and I think David will tell you, a lot of players just want that comfort of saying, all right, I'm signing on the dotted line, and I'm done here. Here's the check mark I want on my money. If it takes him to 40 years old, absolutely. I think a team will do it.
You're going to give him an Albert Pujols deal? That's the type of deal you're talking about here.
So you know,
here's the thing, Hakeem. I don't have a problem spending other people's money.
No, I know you don't. I know you don't. I'm the same way. But I'm asking David, who was a president of a team, you're negotiating a 14-year deal?
So when we signed Stan to 13,325, all of those large deals, you're not really focused on the back end. We did Stanton like a bell curve, where he's making less money at the end of the deal than he is in the middle of the deal when he peaked at $32 million. When you're looking at Soto, though, you can get him out to 40 because also it spreads out the luxury tax. And the teams who are in on Soto are all dealing with luxury tax issues and the competitive balance tax threshold, which means they want to get out as many years as they can to make the average annual value as low as possible. And Boras will not care. He wants the record in notional. He doesn't need to get to 50 above Scherzer and above DeGrom. What he needs to do is get above Ohtani, and that's going to be the focus for Soto and Boras, and they're going to find at least one team willing to do it. My guess is both New York teams will be willing to do it.
So, Bobby, what's that like in the offseason as a manager? And you know, here for the Yankees, they're going to try to get back to the World Series. They're going to spend the money. They're going to try to make a bid for Juan Soto to keep him in the Bronx. They have a couple other guys they may either want to re-sign or go out and get. I mean, there's plenty of names on the market. They can make another run at Blake Snell. Max Fried's going to be out there. Pete Alonso could just switch sides. We talked about Roki Sasaki, the Japanese pitcher. So there's a lot of guys that are going to be available. Alex Bregman, you talked about in perhaps improving third base. What is your conversation in the offseason with the front office?
Well, most teams today, the manager at the end of the year gets his golf clubs and goes home and gets a few phone calls every once in a while, and he's let in on what the team's doing. That's out with most teams. There's a little conversation at the end. This is what I'd like. Can you get me a couple good presents? And then they say goodbye. I worked all year round, so I tried to be involved all the time on everything most of the time. I guess with Will's team, that wasn't the case because when I was with Boston, the offseason gave me a vacation. So,
that's true.
yeah. But But, you know, it just, now it's different. You know, everyone in that front office will do the evaluations. The manager is involved, some are informed. I think that's more of what a manager is during winter. He's informed what the team's doing.
So we do want to keep the manager informed, but we're also looking out 1, 3, 5, 7 years.
Yep.
And with the Yankees, you've got Stanton, where your financial obligations going down, because don't forget the Marlins are paying $10 million of his salary starting the year after next. And so you're looking out because Judge is still going to make the money. Can you bring Soto back, have him in the $40 million range? What does that mean for your pitching? Because remember, when you're the Yankees, you're up against the top luxury tax threshold, and you fell short. You did not have a better team than the Dodgers, who were missing 8 starters. And bringing Soto back makes you the same, not better. It's going to be interesting.
So when you're the Yankees, David, and you're making this pitch to Juan Soto, what is your next target? Are you looking at a Corbin Burns? Who's your 1A when you're looking at the market?
I'm telling Brian Cashman, if you want your job, don't tell me. If I get you Soto, don't you dare tell me about Corbin Burns or Blake Snell. You find me a pitcher like Seth Lugo, who's going to outperform his contract. You find me a pitcher that Will and Bobby and I are not talking about because he's not on anyone's top 10 list, and we can slot him into the rotation and he can outperform. Don't you dare, Brian Cashman, come to me and say, hey, we got to get Burns and Snell on the team after we bring Soto back. Forget it.
Will, would that be a terrible offseason? If they lose Soto, if the Yankees are not able to come to a negotiation, to a contract with Soto, is that a complete failure by not being able to keep him in the Bronx?
Complete failure? I mean, I think it's a big failure. I think he's a big part of this team, and he was a huge part of their success this year. But I think David makes a great point also. If they do lock in that massive contract that is Juan Soto, don't expect any other big splashes, because that's a cannonball, right? That's a huge splash. That's taken up just about all the money they have to use, that they want to use. I won't say that they have to use. I mean, Cashman, you look at the last 24 years, they've spent over $5 billion to win one championship. So it's not always all about the money. Yeah, go in and get in the best players. Sometimes you look at years like this year, the 2 best teams made it to the World Series. Last year, 2 wildcard teams snuck in and got to the World Series. So it's not always about the money, but it is about making your fan base happy sometimes, especially in a market like New York.
Yeah, well, had the Dodgers and Yankees not been in the World Series, I think there was going to be some talk about this whole playoff format and who's getting in and who's getting out, because you want your stars to be playing in the end, even though you have teams like the Guardians who have a $100 million payroll and they get in. So you got to be able to compete with the big boys, and the big boys are going to be the ones that are going to end up getting Juan Soto in the offseason, the biggest offseason storyline of who will win the Soto sweepstakes. David Samson, Bobby Valentine, and Will Middlebrooks here on CBS Sports HQ. And of course, look who the favorites are to run it back. The Dodgers, plus 400. We haven't had a team go back-to-back since the Yankees won 3 in a row. So, you know, hey, if you want to get in now on the Dodgers at plus 400, go ahead and get on it, David. Go ahead.
It's hard for me to imagine. I love that we're up and ready for the 25 World Series. Who's going to be on these teams? I have no way of knowing. But go ahead. Give me a little shekel on the Mets at plus 1,200.
All righty, let's go.
Yeah, I have no idea who's going to be on these teams either. But the Dodgers are going to have some great pitching, that's for sure.